Angela Moore only wanted to buy her niece a birthday gift at Greenwood Mall. To the staff, she was nothing more than a black woman with a heavy purse, an easy mark to accuse. Security guards closed in, radios crackling, eyes sharp with suspicion. Then came Officer Eric Dalton, swaggering through the boutique doors, his hand hovering near his weapon. With a smirk, he shoved Angela against the glass wall, treating her like a criminal. The crowd gasped, phones recording every second. What none of them realized was that this woman wasn't just another shopper. She was Captain Angela Moore, a decorated police veteran with 2 decades of service. And in that single moment, arrogance collided with the wrong person, sparking a chain of events that would shake the entire city. The Saturday afternoon sun poured through the glass skylights of Greenwood Mall, casting shifting diamonds of light across polished tile floors. Families pushed strollers past the fountain where teenagers lounged with sodas, their laughter echoing under the vaulted ceilings. The smell of buttered pretzels and sweet cinnamon rolls drifted from the food court, mixing with bursts of perfume from cosmetic counters. Angela Moore walked steadily among them, her leather purse balanced on one shoulder, her eyes softening as she glanced at shop windows. For weeks, she had buried herself in personnel meetings, endless reports, and late-night calls from the precinct. Her 20 years of service as a police officer, 10 of them as a captain, had hardened her in many ways. But today she allowed herself a rare luxury, a normal afternoon. She was here for one purpose, and it warmed her heart. "Something special for Jasmine," she murmured, thinking of her niece's upcoming birthday. Jasmine loved jewelry, delicate things with charm and sparkle. Angela pictured the girl's radiant smile when she unwrapped her gift. That thought kept her moving, a small pocket of joy in a week filled with administrative headaches and political maneuvering inside the department. She had only walked 8 minutes when she noticed them. Reflections in a shop window told her what her instincts already screamed: surveillance. 2 mall security guards shadowed her steps with the subtlety of men who thought they were clever. The taller one, a thick-necked man with a buzz cut and a badge that read Miller, raised his radio and spoke openly, not bothering to lower his voice. "Copy that. Black female, brown leather bag, blue sweater, keeping eyes on—" The words cut like a blade, louder than the chatter of nearby shoppers. Angela's fingers tightened around the strap of her purse. She had endured such treatment before, followed in department stores, eyed with suspicion for no reason but the color of her skin. And still, the sting never dulled. The shorter guard, Davis, couldn't mask his discomfort. His eyes darted between his partner and Angela, his mouth twitching as if he wanted to protest but lacked the courage. Angela clenched her jaw. Years on the force had trained her to read body language, to measure intent, to see the threat behind casual postures. She could almost predict the chain of events unraveling ahead of her. For a moment, she considered ending it immediately. She could spin around, pull her badge from her purse, and watch their smug expressions collapse into apology. The idea tempted her, sweet with righteous satisfaction. But no, today she wasn't Captain Moore. Today she was just Angela, an aunt buying a bracelet for her niece. She wouldn't let 2 overzealous guards ruin this. With a breath that steadied her pulse, Angela pushed through the doors of Crystal's boutique. Inside, soft jazz floated from hidden speakers. The air smelled faintly of vanilla and expensive leather. Shelves gleamed with designer handbags. Glass cases sparkled with fine jewelry. Everything about the boutique whispered exclusivity, from the velvet-lined displays to the pale marble counters. Behind the counter, a middle-aged woman stiffened at Angela's entrance. Her blazer was pressed to perfection, her blonde hair sprayed immaculately into place. The name tag pinned to her lapel read Linda. Her smile was thin, brittle, the kind that cracked at the edges. "Can I help you?" Her tone carried the sharpness of suspicion dressed as politeness. "Just browsing. Thanks." Angela kept her voice calm, steady, though her heart thudded faster. She moved toward a display of charm bracelets, her eyes scanning for one with a butterfly, Jasmine's favorite motif. Linda's gaze tracked her every step. In the reflection of a mirrored wall, Angela caught the woman's eyes fixed not on her face, but on the purse slung at her side. Outside, Miller and Davis hovered by the entrance, pretending to examine a mall directory, but failing miserably. Angela's stomach tightened. "These are all locked cases," Linda announced, appearing suddenly at Angela's elbow. Her voice was loud, enough to carry across the boutique. "They can only be opened by staff?" "I understand," Angela replied smoothly, focusing on the bracelets under glass. "When I'm ready to see something, I'll let you know." But Linda didn't retreat. Instead, she edged closer, her perfume sharp in the air. Angela could almost feel the woman's breath as her eyes darted again toward the purse, as though expecting Angela to snatch something and slip it inside. The purse burned against Angela's side. She had saved for 3 months to buy it, a gift to herself after her promotion. Now it felt like a target, an object of suspicion rather than pride. She inhaled deeply and straightened. "Actually," Angela said firmly, pointing toward a case, "I'd like to see that silver bracelet with the butterfly charm." Linda hesitated. Her fingers trembled as she reached for the keys. Unlocking the glass, she lifted the bracelet with exaggerated caution, as though she expected Angela to lunge and seize the entire tray. The bracelet was exquisite. Delicate silver links caught the light, each wing of the butterfly dusted with tiny crystals. Angela smiled despite the tension, imagining Jasmine's delight. "I'll take—" "Excuse me," Linda cut her off, her voice sharp enough to slice the air. "I need to see inside your bag." The boutique froze. The jazz faded into silence. Even the shoppers browsing earrings turned, their eyes widening. Angela felt the heat climb her neck. Her voice remained calm, but the steel in it was unmistakable. "Excuse me? A piece of jewelry is missing from this case." "Uh-huh." Linda's voice grew louder, emboldened now that Miller and Davis had stepped into the store. "I saw you slip something into your purse." Angela's hands trembled, not from fear, but from fury. "That's absolutely false. I haven't touched anything except the bracelet you just showed me." "Ma'am, please cooperate," Miller barked, striding forward with his hand resting on his radio. "Empty your bag on the counter." Angela drew herself up, her posture shifting from casual shopper to officer of the law. She felt the old mantle of authority settle around her shoulders like armor. "I will not," she said firmly. "I haven't stolen anything, and you have no right to search my personal property without probable cause." Davis shifted uneasily behind his partner. Linda's cheeks flushed crimson, but she pressed on. "Either show us what's in the bag or we'll call the police." "Agree." "This is harassment," Angela declared, her voice firm enough for every shopper to hear. "You've been following me since I entered this mall. You're targeting me because I'm black, and I will not submit to this humiliation." Miller took another step, his bulk towering over her. "Last chance. Open the bag or things get complicated." Angela's heart hammered, but her voice never faltered. "I'm not opening anything. You have no right. No evidence. Back off. That's it." Miller raised his radio. "Code 10 at Crystal's boutique. Subject refusing to comply. Requesting police backup." The crowd at the entrance grew. Phones rose. Recording. Linda wrung her hands, her earlier confidence thinning. Davis kept glancing toward the door, as if silently hoping this would end. Angela remained immovable. She had faced down armed suspects, gang leaders, corrupt colleagues. She would not be broken by a mall guard and a prejudiced manager. "You're making a very big mistake," she told Miller quietly, eyes locked on his. The tension crackled like static, thick and unyielding. Angela's training urged restraint. Instead of struggling when Miller grabbed her right arm, she lifted her voice for the cameras. "I am calmly requesting to review the security footage that will prove my innocence. That is not interference. That is a reasonable solution." The crowd murmured, phone steady. Then the doorway darkened. A broad-shouldered man shoved through, his badge glinting under fluorescent light, his expression smug. Officer Eric Dalton. Angela knew him by reputation. Excessive force, aggressive arrests, complaints that never stuck. Protected by the right friends, he radiated arrogance as he surveyed the scene, his hand resting on his holster with deliberate menace. "What do we got here?" Dalton boomed, his voice carrying through the boutique like a showman. "She won't let us check her bag," Linda gushed. "I saw her," Dalton cut her off, his eyes narrowing on Angela. "Always the same story, isn't it?" "Officer," Angela began evenly, "this is a misunderstanding. If you'll just—" Before she could finish, Dalton's hand shot out. He grabbed her shoulder and slammed her against the glass wall. The display rattled, bracelets jingling inside. Gasps erupted around the store. Cold glass pressed against Angela's cheek as Dalton leaned close, his voice dripping with contempt. "Don't tell me how to do my job. Hands behind your back. Now." "This is excessive force," Angela declared loudly, her voice carrying to every phone recording. "I have rights, and you are violating them." "Rights?" Dalton sneered. "You've got the right to shut up while I add resisting arrest to your charges." The cuffs snapped tight around her wrists. Pain shot up her arms, but Angela held her head high. The crowd outside the boutique had swollen, lining the corridor, filming from every angle. Some called out protests. Others whispered in shock. No one stepped in, but the tide of outrage was building. Dalton marched her toward the exit, his grip iron. Every step burned humiliation into her chest, but Angela's posture was unbroken, her gaze forward. "You're making a scene for nothing," Dalton shouted theatrically. "Should have just cooperated." The sun outside was blinding. The parking lot blurred in her vision. Dalton shoved her toward his cruiser. "Before this goes any further," Angela said loudly enough for the crowd, "I think you should know something. Officer Dalton—" "Save it for booking," he snapped, reaching for the door handle. "I'm Captain Angela Moore, 15th Precinct." Her words rang like a bell. "My badge is in my front pocket. If you'd asked for identification before assaulting me, you would have known." The crowd erupted in murmurs. Phones tilted closer. Dalton's hand froze. He patted her pocket, pulled the gold shield into the sunlight. His bravado wavered. "This is fake," he barked, but his voice cracked. "She's a captain," someone shouted. "He arrested a police captain for shopping." More voices joined, outrage swelling like a storm. Angela looked Dalton in the eye, her voice steady as a blade. "Remove these cuffs, now, before you dig yourself deeper." Dalton's hands shook. He tried to bluster, but the crowd wasn't buying it. The chant began low, then spread like fire. "Let her go! Let her go!" Phones streamed live. Teenagers narrated on TikTok. Mothers raised their voices. The mall that had been her place of humiliation became, in minutes, the stage of her resistance. Angela stood unyielding, wrists aching in steel, her eyes locked on the man who thought he could crush her. He didn't know it yet, but the moment he chose arrogance over truth, he had lit the fuse of something much bigger than himself, and she was ready to fight. The crowd outside Greenwood Mall was buzzing like a hive. Shoppers held their phones high, narrating into live streams, their voices full of disbelief and fury. Parents shielded their children's eyes, whispering explanations they themselves struggled to believe. A captain in uniform might have commanded their respect, but a black woman in a sweater and jeans, dragged in handcuffs, that image burned raw into their memory. Dalton's jaw clenched as he shoved Angela toward the cruiser. His grip dug into her arm, but he felt the heat of dozens of lenses watching. He thrived on intimidation, but the balance of power was shifting. The phones were not weapons, but they cut sharper than knives. "Into the car," he growled, forcing the cuffs tighter. Angela inhaled slowly, her voice clear and deliberate. "Every second of this is being recorded." Officer, every violation of protocol, every abuse of authority. Are you certain you want to continue? The murmurs swelled. Someone near the back shouted, "She's a captain! Let her go!" Others joined, until the chant spread. Justice for more. Justice for more. Dalton's swagger faltered, his eyes darting nervously. But he pushed forward, yanking the car door open with a metallic screech. Angela felt the burn of steel biting her wrists, but she stood tall, her chin high. She had survived interrogation rooms, armed standoffs, and the grind of politics in a department where men twice her size had tried to drown her out. She would not be diminished here. A ripple went through the crowd as another police cruiser rolled into the lot. Its lights flashed silently, painting the scene red and blue. Sergeant Robert Watkins stepped out, his weathered face calm, his posture steady. Angela knew him, had worked with him on difficult cases. He was no saint, but he was fair. "Dalton," Watkins called out, voice carrying, "why do you have Captain Moore in cuffs?" Dalton's face blanched. "Sergeant, I was responding to a theft call. This woman claimed to be a captain, but that woman is Captain Moore." Watkins interrupted sharply. His voice was not raised, but the authority in it cut like thunder. "Your commanding officer's commanding officer." The crowd exploded, jeers and shouts hammering Dalton. Phones pivoted to capture his expression, the twitch in his jaw, the panic in his eyes. His bravado crumbled. Watkins stepped closer. "Take those cuffs off. Now!" Dalton's hands shook as he fumbled with the keys. The cuffs clattered free. Angela rubbed her sore wrists, red marks already blooming where steel had bitten skin. A woman in a business suit appeared, clutching a phone like a lifeline. Patricia Wells, the mall's PR director. She plastered a smile over her panic. "Captain Moore, on behalf of Greenwood Mall, I extend our sincerest apologies for this unfortunate misunderstanding." Angela turned slowly, her voice edged with fire. "Unfortunate misunderstanding? Is that what we call racial profiling and police brutality now?" The crowd cheered, the words striking like a match on gasoline. Wells flushed crimson, her smile cracking. "We'll conduct a full investigation." "Save it," Angela said flatly. "Your cameras recorded everything. Preserve that footage, because the people here," she gestured to the crowd, "aren't the only witnesses." Applause erupted. Shouts of solidarity rolled across the lot. The mall's polished facade, meant to project prosperity, now reflected a different truth. Corruption cracking under the weight of exposure. Angela stood straighter, her wrists throbbing, but her resolve stronger than ever. She collected her badge from Dalton's trembling hand, tucking it safely into her jacket. Without another word, she turned, walked through the parted crowd, and left the mall behind. The drive home was a blur of headlights and blurred emotions. Angela's grip on the wheel was steady, but inside her chest, a storm raged. She replayed the incident in her mind, the shove against the glass, the sneer in Dalton's voice, the cold snap of the cuffs. Humiliation, rage, and disbelief churned together. But beneath it all burned something harder, a resolve carved by 20 years of service. Her neighborhood looked deceptively peaceful as she pulled into her driveway. Children rode bikes along the sidewalk, laughter ringing in the warm evening air. Sprinklers hissed across neat lawns. Angela parked, sat in silence for a long moment, and finally exhaled. She needed to document everything while it was still sharp in her mind. Inside her house, the familiar scent of sandalwood candles greeted her. She dropped her purse on the counter and headed straight for her office. The laptop hummed to life, the screen glow casting her face in blue light. She opened a blank document, fingers flying across the keys. Every detail poured out. Miller's call on the radio, Linda's accusation, Dalton's excessive force, the crowd's chants, Watkins's intervention. She was still typing when the email pinged. Subject line, Incident Report 2T13487. Her stomach dropped. She opened the attachment. Dalton's report painted a different reality. In his version, Angela had been combative from the moment he arrived. He claimed she struck his arm, resisted lawful commands, interfered with mall security operations. The words oozed with venomous precision, each sentence crafted to twist her into the stereotype she had fought against for decades, the angry black woman. Angela leaned back in her chair, bile rising in her throat. The report had already been copied to Internal Affairs, the chief's office, and the police union. Dalton wasn't just covering himself. He was moving fast, shaping the narrative before she could even catch her breath. The clock ticked towards 7:30 p.m. When the doorbell rang, Angela startled, hand brushing the holster at her hip before remembering she was home. She opened the door to see Rachel Brooks, her best friend of 15 years, and standing with a bottle of wine in one hand and concern etched deep in her features. "I figured you'd need this," Rachel said, lifting the bottle. Angela let her in, the tension in her shoulders easing just slightly. They settled at the dining table. Chinese takeout spread between them. It was their ritual, wine and food whenever one of them faced a storm. Rachel flipped open a manila folder. "I reviewed Dalton's report. Angela, it's worse than I thought." Angela stabbed at her chicken with a fork, her appetite gone. "Tell me straight." Rachel's voice was calm, but her eyes betrayed the worry. "The report is engineered to trigger Internal Affairs. He's claiming assault on an officer. He's got Miller and Linda as witnesses. And you know how this goes. First report on file becomes the official truth." Angela's jaw tightened. "But there are videos. Dozens of witnesses. They saw what really happened." "Videos help," Rachel said, sipping her wine. "But the department will argue they're incomplete. They'll focus on your tone, your attitude. They'll twist your resistance into aggression. And let's be honest, Angela, the system eats its own, especially when you're a black captain making waves." The words stung because they were true. Angela pushed her plate away. "So what are my options?" Rachel leaned forward. "Legally, we fight. The videos are strong. Your record is spotless. But if the department decides to push Dalton's version, you could face suspension pending investigation. They might even try to force you out early." Angela's laugh was hollow. "Force me out? Over what? Buying a bracelet for my niece?" "Not over that," Rachel said softly. "Over refusing to stay silent. Over making them look bad." Silence settled heavy over the table. Angela rose, walked to the kitchen window. Outside, the suburban street glowed under lamplight, serene and ordinary. But nothing felt ordinary anymore. "I could go public," Angela said, turning back. "The story's already viral. I could tell my side." Rachel's frown deepened. "Risky. You remember Captain Williams. He spoke out about profiling 3 years ago. Last I heard, he's working warehouse security in Ohio. The department makes examples of those who cross the line. So I'm supposed to just take it? Let Dalton smear me? Destroy everything I've built?" Angela's voice cracked with fury. "No," Rachel said firmly, meeting her eyes. "We fight smart. We gather evidence. We build a case." And Angela, she hesitated, then slid a stack of files across the table. "This isn't just about you." Angela flipped through them. Arrest records, names, faces. "What am I looking at? 6 clients in the past year, all black, all arrested at or near Greenwood Mall. Same pattern, resisting arrest, assaulting officers, always after filing complaints about harassment." Rachel's tone hardened. "Dalton's name shows up in most of them. And look at the outcomes." Angela scanned quickly, her stomach tightening. Guilty pleas, probation fees, families in financial ruin. "How many cases are we talking about?" Rachel leaned back, eyes tired. "These are just the ones who fought back. For every one of these, there are 5 who couldn't afford to." Angela sat heavily, the scope of it pressing down like a weight. She wasn't just fighting for her career. She was staring at a machine designed to crush people like her. The clock ticked toward midnight as they pored over documents. By the time Rachel left, Angela felt wrung out but sharper, her mind alive with patterns and questions. Sleep wouldn't come. She sat in the darkened living room, laptop glow on her face. Social media burned with footage of her arrest. Outrage clashed with venom, some voices demanding justice, others mocking her, calling her every name she had ever heard hurled at black women who dared to stand tall. Her phone buzzed on the table, an unknown number. She swiped the screen. The message was short, cold. Back off. Captain, you don't know what you're stepping into. Angela stared at the words, her pulse steadying, not with fear, but with something harder. She screenshot the threat, filed it into her growing case folder, and set her jaw. They wanted to scare her into silence. They didn't know Angela Moore. Angela Moore sat motionless in the dim glow of her living room, the threatening text still glaring at her from the phone screen. The words were simple, but their weight pressed like iron against her chest. Back off. Captain, you don't know what you're stepping into. She had received death threats before. 20 years on the force meant angry suspects, vengeful criminals, people who swore revenge but never followed through. But this was different. The area code was local, the timing too precise. Arriving minutes after she and Rachel had pieced together the bigger picture, it wasn't random rage. It was deliberate. Angela screenshot the message, stored it in a secure folder with her growing mountain of evidence, and forced herself to breathe evenly. Fear was natural. Fear was expected. But fear wouldn't control her. Her eyes drifted toward the framed photograph on her bookshelf, her younger self in uniform, flanked by her parents on graduation day at the academy. Their pride had been her compass for decades. You didn't raise me to fold, she whispered into the quiet. The clock struck midnight, but she couldn't sleep. Instead, she opened the laptop again, scrolling through social media. The videos of her arrest had spread like wildfire. One clip, filmed by a teenage girl in the crowd, had already surpassed 2 million views. Comments poured in. This is what systemic racism looks like. Captain Moore is a hero for standing up. Justice for Moore. Mixed in were venomous replies. She played the race card. If she just complied, none of this would have happened. Fake badge, fake victim. Angela closed the laptop with a snap, her jaw tight. She wouldn't let trolls define her. But she couldn't ignore how fast narratives could spin out of control. Dalton had already filed his false report. He'd set the department machinery in motion, framing her as the aggressor, and the system often sided with whoever wrote the first story. The next morning, Angela walked into the precinct with her head high, though every step felt heavier than the last. Whispers followed her through the hallway. Conversations hushed as she passed. Some colleagues avoided her eyes, others stared openly, judgment sharp as knives. She made her way to her office, the blinds drawn as though shielding her from the rest of the department. She logged into the internal database. Arrest reports scrolled across the screen, columns of dates, charges, and officer names. She typed Greenwood Mall into the location filter, her heart thudding as numbers flooded the screen. Dozens of cases, nearly all involving young black men and women. The charges repeated like a broken record: resisting arrest, disorderly conduct, assaulting an officer. The officers' names rotated in a grim pattern: Dalton, Martinez, Cooper. Angela leaned closer. The conviction rates were staggering. Most cases ended in guilty pleas, the defendants opting for probation over trial, probation that led them into the hands of one company, New Horizons Supervision Services. She clicked deeper. A departmental memo flashed across her screen. Her breath caught. The police had formalized a partnership with New Horizon, citing cost-saving measures and community supervision initiatives. At the bottom appeared the signature: Deputy Commissioner Andrew Roth. Angela scrolled further, unease hardening into fury. Financial records showed New Horizon as a subsidiary of Coleman Holdings LLC, the same family that owned Greenwood Mall. Arrests fed probation, probation fed fees, fees fed the mall owner's profits. It was a machine designed to squeeze lives dry, and the police were its gears. Her phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. Need to meet? Urgent? They met at Rachel's office, the blinds drawn tight against the morning sun. Stacks of manila folders crowded the lawyer's desk, spilling onto the floor. Rachel's eyes were bloodshot, her hair pulled into a messy bun that betrayed a sleepless night. I've been up since 3, she said without preamble. And Angela, it's bigger than we imagined. Angela set her coffee down, trying to steady her nerves. Show me. Rachel spread folders across the desk, a mosaic of misery. 47 confirmed cases in the past year, all false arrests near Greenwood Mall, all channeled into New Horizon probation. She pointed to a spreadsheet she'd compiled. 86% pleaded guilty. That's way above normal plea rates. Angela scanned the numbers, her stomach sinking. And every plea meant probation fees. Exactly. Fees that pile into thousands of dollars. Monthly supervision charges, drug testing, electronic monitoring, miss a payment, and probation's revoked. Back to jail. More fees. An endless loop. Angela rose, pacing the office. How many lives destroyed by this cycle? How many families buried in debt? Rachel's voice was grim. And guess who owns New Horizon? Richard Coleman, the same man who owns Greenwood Mall. Angela froze, the threads tied neatly together. Arrests at the mall, false charges, probation profits, all circling back to Coleman. Rachel lowered her voice. And Angela, there's more. I think some of your colleagues are in on it. These cases spike every quarter, right before Coleman Holdings reports earnings to shareholders. It's not random. It's calculated. Angela felt her pulse in her temples, rage mixed with betrayal. Cops manufacturing arrests to hit corporate profit quotas. Rachel didn't answer. She didn't need to. That afternoon, Angela sat in her car across from Greenwood Mall, watching the glass facade shimmer in the sun. Yesterday, she had seen it as the site of her humiliation. Today, she saw it as the epicenter of a machine devouring her community. Shoppers came and went, oblivious. A black mother hurried inside, clutching her purse tightly, eyes wary of the guards stationed at the entrance. A teenage boy lingered by the fountain, his every step tracked by a security officer pretending to check his phone. The scale of it hit Angela like a tidal wave. This wasn't about her anymore. It wasn't about a bracelet or Dalton's bruised ego. It was about years of lives stolen for profit. This isn't just about me, she whispered to the empty car. This is systemic. Her phone buzzed. A call from an unknown number. Angela debated answering, then pressed accept. Captain Moore? A female voice, steady and urgent. My name is Sophia Torres. I'm with the City Herald. We need to talk. Angela stiffened. How did you get this number? I've been investigating Greenwood Mall and Officer Dalton for 6 months. Money trails, shell companies, intimidated witnesses. Then your arrest went viral, and I knew it was my chance. Please, meet me. I think I have what you're looking for. Angela hesitated. Journalists could be allies or liabilities, but something in Sophia's tone reminded her of herself 20 years ago, hungry and unafraid. Where? They met at a quiet diner on the city's edge. The neon sign flickered over cracked vinyl booths, the smell of fried bacon lingering in the air. Sophia sat in the corner, a messenger bag tight against her side, her dark eyes sharp with conviction. Thank you for coming, she said, sliding a manila envelope across the table. This is from a source inside Coleman Holdings. Angela opened it. Corporate memos on official letterhead spilled out. As she read, Her hands began to tremble. Loss prevention initiatives. Security instructed to target high-risk demographics. Arrest quotas approved by the board. Bonuses tied directly to numbers of arrests. Her jaw clenched. This isn't negligence. This is policy. Sophia leaned forward. They coordinated with Dalton directly. The memos show him reporting arrest stats to Coleman executives. Every arrest fed into New Horizon probation. Every probation fee circled back to Coleman Holdings. Angela exhaled slowly, the paper rattling in her hands. It was the proof she needed, the missing piece tying corporate greed to police corruption. Sophia's eyes burned with intensity. I can publish this, but it's dangerous. Witnesses disappear, records vanish. I need someone inside to help me connect the dots. Someone like you. Angela studied her. And what's in it for you? The truth, Sophia said simply. I grew up watching my immigrant parents harassed by cops, targeted by predatory companies. This isn't just a story for me. It's personal. Angela nodded slowly. Then we fight together. But we move carefully. They already threaten me. And if they know about you, they already do, Sophia said softly, brushing a bruise on her wrist. That's why we need to strike hard and fast. The diner door creaked as a trucker entered, the bell jangling overhead. For a moment, both women fell silent, eyes darting to the door. When no threat emerged, Angela leaned closer. Then let's bring them down. That night, Angela returned home to find her mailbox stuffed with envelopes. At first, she thought it was junk mail. But as she spread them across the kitchen table, her stomach twisted. No return addresses, no stamps. Delivered by hand. The first envelope contained a crude drawing of a figure hanging from a tree. Below it, words cut from magazines. Mind your business. The second contained surveillance photos. Angela leaving her house, meeting Rachel, walking into the diner with Sophia. The third was worse. Pictures of Jasmine's school, her niece's smiling face circled in red marker. The last envelope held a photo of Angela herself, being handcuffed at the mall. Someone had drawn crosshairs over her face. She sat heavily in her chair, the hate mail scattered like shards of glass around her. Her pulse pounded, but her resolve hardened. They thought fear would silence her. They thought threats would break her. They didn't know who they were dealing with. Angela gathered the letters carefully, slid them into a folder, and locked it in her desk. Tomorrow, she would show Rachel. Tomorrow, she would show Sophia. The threats weren't a setback. They were proof that the enemy was scared. Angela looked at the badge resting on her desk, its gold shield catching the lamplight. 20 years of loyalty, now twisted against her. She touched it lightly, a vow forming in her chest. If the system won't protect us, she whispered, then I'll burn the system down with the truth. The hate mail sat heavy in Angela Moore's desk drawer, locked away yet pulsing like a live wire. Each letter had been a calculated strike, an attempt to remind her she was watched, vulnerable, that her family wasn't beyond their reach. But instead of breaking her, the threats only clarified the stakes. By morning, Angela was back at Rachel Brooks's office, a manila folder tucked under her arm. Rachel scanned the contents, her face tightening with every page. They sent you pictures of Jasmine's school? She whispered, her knuckles white around the photo. Angela's jaw flexed. They know where my niece studies. That's how far they're willing to go. Rachel dropped the photo as if it burned. We have to tell your chief. Angela shook her head. No. The moment I walk into his office, it'll leak. Half the command staff is tied to Coleman Holdings, directly or indirectly. If we show them this, we'll be tipping our hand. Sure, but Rachel exhaled sharply, her eyes flashing. Then what's the play? Angela tapped the folder. We build our own case. We collect evidence they can't bury. And when we have enough, we go public. Rachel hesitated. Angela, going public means open war. Angela's eyes were cold steel. Then it's war. That afternoon, Sophia Torres joined them at Rachel's office. Messenger bag slung across her shoulder, a grim determination in her eyes. She looked younger in the daylight than she had in the diner, barely 30, fueled more by fire than years. "They're watching me too," Sophia said, dropping into a chair. "My landlord says 2 men in suits asked questions about me this morning. And last night, someone broke into my car. Nothing stolen, except the USB drive I left in the glove box." Angela and Rachel exchanged glances. "What was on it?" Angela asked. "Copies of the Coleman memos," Sophia admitted. "I still have backups, but the message is clear. They know I'm working with you." Angela cursed under her breath. The circle was tightening faster than she'd imagined. "We need to assume everything we do is monitored." Sophia pulled out her laptop. "That's why I brought this. I've been building an offline archive, air-gapped from the internet. If they want to erase evidence, they'll have to physically break into my apartment." Rachel smirked grimly. Judging by what Angela found in her mailbox, that wouldn't exactly stop them. Sophia's expression didn't waver. "Then let them come. Every threat only proves we're over the target." Angela studied her, admiring the younger woman's resolve. She saw shades of herself at that age, reckless, bold, unwilling to bow. But Angela knew the danger Sophia was courting, and the guilt of involving her gnawed like rust at the edges of her resolve. 3 nights later, the danger became real. Angela's phone buzzed at 11:47 p.m. Rachel's name flashed on the screen. "Angela, Sophia's in the hospital." The words hit like a blow. "What happened?" "Someone jumped her outside her apartment. She was beaten. Her bag stolen." Angela grabbed her keys, heart hammering. By the time she reached Mercy General Hospital, the sterile corridors hummed with late-night quiet. She found Rachel slumped in a plastic chair outside a curtained ER bay. "They went straight for the bag," Rachel said hollowly. "Didn't even bother with her phone or wallet. Just the bag." Angela's stomach sank. "Her laptop?" Rachel nodded. "Gone," Angela cursed, pacing. "That bag held our entire archive. Coleman memos, arrest reports, everything." Rachel's eyes brimmed with tears, but her voice was firm. "They're not just trying to scare us anymore. They're wiping us clean." Angela pushed through the curtain. Sophia lay on the bed, bruises painting her face, one arm in a sling. Despite the damage, her eyes sparked when they landed on Angela. "They think they got everything," Sophia whispered hoarsely. "But they didn't." Angela leaned close. "What do you mean?" Sophia's lips curled faintly. "I sent a copy of the files to myself. Printed. Old school. They're in my desk drawer at work. They didn't touch that." Relief surged through Angela. Sophia's foresight had saved them, but relief gave way quickly to rage. "You almost died for this." Sophia's smile was weak but defiant. "I didn't come this far to quit. If anything, now I know how scared they are." Angela squeezed her shoulder gently. "Rest. We'll handle the rest." The next day, Angela returned to the precinct. She moved through the corridors like a ghost, every pair of eyes a potential enemy. Lieutenant Michael Turner, her longtime colleague, intercepted her near the break room. His face was carved from suspicion, his voice low. "Angela, what the hell are you doing? Word is you've been digging into cases that aren't yours." Angela kept her tone even. "I'm reviewing patterns. Nothing illegal about that." Turner's eyes narrowed. "Careful. Internal Affairs is sniffing around. They think you're gunning for Dalton. That kind of heat doesn't just burn him. It burns everyone near him." Angela tilted her head, studying him. For years, and she had trusted Turner, leaned on him. But now, with his warnings dripping like rehearsed lines, doubt gnawed at her. Was he protecting her or the system? "I'll take my chances," she said coolly, brushing past him. But as she walked away, Her stomach tightened. Rachel had suspected there was a mole in the department, and Turner's unease felt less like concern and more like surveillance. That evening, Angela and Rachel pored over Sophia's printed archive in Rachel's office. Faded ink, stapled reports, corporate memos. Paper felt oddly solid in a world where files vanished with a keystroke. One memo stood out. Angela traced the lines with her finger. Monthly arrest quota. 15. Focus on individuals exhibiting high-risk demographic indicators. Cooperation with mall security expected. Report statistics directly to Coleman Holdings liaison. Her chest tightened. It was irrefutable evidence of collusion. Rachel tapped the page. This is enough to bury Dalton. But Coleman? We'll need more. Angela leaned back, rubbing her temples. Then we go deeper. We find the money trail. The answer came sooner than expected. 2 nights later, a young patrol officer named Chris Moreno knocked on Angela's door, his face pale. I shouldn't be here, he stammered, glancing over his shoulder. But I can't keep quiet. Dalton's been running reports through a burner phone. He brags about it, like he's untouchable. I saw him drop it in his locker. Angela's pulse spiked. Can you get it? Moreno shook his head. Too risky. But maybe you can. You outrank him. If anyone can open his locker without raising alarms, it's you. Angela studied the young officer. Fear trembled in his eyes, but so did conviction. She nodded slowly. Thank you. Chris, you did the right thing. 2 days later, Angela moved quietly through the precinct after hours. The locker room smelled faintly of sweat and disinfectant, the hum of fluorescent lights the only sound. She approached Dalton's locker, hands steady despite her pounding heart. She slid a master key into the lock. It clicked open. Inside, amid spare uniforms and cologne bottles, sat a small black phone. Angela slipped it into an evidence bag, her breath quick. She drove straight to Rachel's office, where Sophia, her arm still in a sling, was waiting. Rachel connected the phone to a forensic reader. The screen blinked alive, lines of data spilling across. And then they saw it. Messages between Dalton and a Coleman Holdings executive, arrest tallies, payment confirmations, dates aligning perfectly with spikes in probation cases, even a chilling line from Dalton himself. Don't worry, Captain Moore won't be a problem much longer. Angela's stomach turned. She had known Dalton was corrupt, but seeing her own name in his texts, reduced to an obstacle in a profit scheme, it was a new kind of fury. Rachel exhaled slowly. This is the smoking gun. Sophia's eyes gleamed, even through her bruises. With this, we can take them down. Angela looked at both women, the weight of their trust pressing heavy. Then we move fast, because once they realize this phone is missing, all hell will break loose. That night, as Angela drove home, headlights appeared in her rearview mirror. A black SUV, its windows tinted, matching her every turn. Her grip tightened on the wheel. She turned left. The SUV turned left. She sped up. So did they. Her phone buzzed on the passenger seat. A new text from an unknown number. We warned you. Last chance. Angela's eyes narrowed. She pressed harder on the accelerator. Her heart steady now. Her fear transformed into fire. They thought they could silence her. They thought they could break her, but they didn't understand. Angela Moore had nothing left to lose, except the truth, and she would protect it with everything she had. The black SUV clung to Angela Moore's tail like a shadow that refused to let go. Its headlights flooded her rearview mirror, blinding, oppressive. She tightened her grip on the steering wheel, pulse steady but alert. Every turn she took through the sleepy suburban streets of Maplewood was mirrored with eerie precision. She slowed deliberately in front of a gas station, then swerved suddenly into the parking lot. The SUV hesitated, then accelerated past, disappearing into the night. Angela sat still, engine idling, her jaw clenched. It wasn't paranoia. They were tracking her, testing her, reminding her they could close in whenever they chose. She pulled out her phone, snapped a photo of the SUV's license plate before it vanished. Evidence. Every detail mattered now. When she finally reached home, exhaustion pressed at her bones, but adrenaline wouldn't let her rest. The stolen burner phone, still hidden in her locked desk drawer, felt like a ticking bomb. The data on it could collapse careers, corporations, and reputations, but only if she lived long enough to reveal it. The next morning, sunlight streamed across Rachel Brooks's office table, scattering across piles of paper and Sophia Torres's battered laptop. Sophia sat with her arm still in a sling, her face pale but eyes alive with defiance. "I got the SUV's plate," Angela announced, dropping the photo on the table. "We trace it. We find out who's running surveillance." Rachel leaned in, adjusting her glasses. "That's registered to a private security firm, but guess what? Subsidiary of Coleman Holdings." Sophia gave a humorless laugh. "Of course it is. They own the mall, the probation company, the cops, and now the people tailing you home." Angela sank into a chair. "They're tightening the net. We need to get ahead of them. Fast." Sophia's fingers flew across her keyboard. "Then we hit them where it hurts. Visibility. I've been compiling every story, every video, every witness statement. We need to make it impossible for them to bury this." Rachel frowned. "Going public too soon could backfire. They'll discredit you, smear you, twist the narrative." "They already are." Angela snapped. "Have you seen the headlines? I'm unstable. I'm vindictive. If we don't seize the story, they'll write the ending for us." Sophia looked up, her bruises stark under the fluorescent light. "Then we need voices besides yours. People they can't dismiss as a disgruntled cop. Real citizens, victims, witnesses." As if summoned by fate, that afternoon a quiet knock echoed at Angela's front door. She opened it to find a teenage girl clutching a phone nervously to her chest. "My name's Alyssa James," the girl said quickly. I filmed your arrest at the mall." Angela blinked, stunned. She'd seen the viral video dozens of times but had never known who held the camera. "Come in," Angela said softly. Alyssa perched on the edge of Angela's couch, hands trembling as she unlocked her phone. "There's more you haven't seen. I started recording earlier than I posted. I was scared to share it before, but I can't stay quiet anymore." The video began. Angela watched herself strolling into Crystal's boutique, unaware. Then Dalton appeared on screen, 5 minutes before she even entered. He leaned close to the manager, Linda, whispering something. Linda's expression hardened. She adjusted her blazer, squared her shoulders. Dalton stepped back, waiting like a predator at the edge of a trap. Angela's stomach turned. The footage was undeniable. Dalton had orchestrated the confrontation before it happened. "He set me up," Angela whispered. Alyssa nodded fiercely. "He's been doing it for months. My cousin got hit the same way. I started filming whenever I saw him around the mall. I've got clips of him tailing shoppers, whispering to managers, staging everything. People thought I was paranoid. But when I saw what he did to you," her voice cracked, "I knew I couldn't keep it to myself." Angela reached out, resting a steady hand on the girl's trembling one. "You were brave. This video changes everything." Sophia's voice rang with excitement. "We release it, not a clip. The full, unedited footage. If the world sees Dalton setting up his own arrests, their whole narrative collapses." Rachel's brow furrowed. "And what about Alyssa? Once this is out, she'll be a target." "I don't care," Alyssa said quickly. "People need to know. They've ruined too many lives already." Angela's chest swelled with equal parts pride and worry. Alyssa was just a kid, but in her fiery eyes, Angela saw the same hunger for justice that had driven her all these years. 2 days later, Greenwood Mall's front entrance looked nothing like its usual Saturday bustle. Hundreds of protesters filled the plaza, their voices rising in rhythmic chants. "Justice for more! Justice for more!" Hand-painted signs bobbed above the crowd. Stop racial profiling. End probation profiteering. We stand with Captain Moore. Angela stood at the edge of the throng, a baseball cap pulled low over her eyes. She hadn't planned to be here, but when she saw the crowd gathering on social media, she couldn't stay away. The air buzzed with righteous fury. Teenagers live-streamed on TikTok. Elderly women passed out water bottles. Parents hoisted toddlers on their shoulders, pointing toward the mall as if to say, "Remember this. This is history." Mall security huddled nervously behind the glass doors, their radios crackling. A line of uniformed officers stood a few yards away, faces unreadable. Some looked uneasy, others stone-faced. Beside Angela, Alyssa held her phone steady, broadcasting live. "This is what they tried to hide," she told her thousands of followers. "This is what they didn't want you to see." On cue, Sophia uploaded the unedited footage. Notifications exploded across phones in the crowd. Screens lit up. Gasps and shouts rippled as people watched Dalton conspiring with Linda. "He set her up," someone shouted. "Arrest Dalton, not Moore," cried another. The chants shifted, louder, angrier. "Show the truth! Show the truth!" Angela felt the vibration in her chest, each shout syncing with her heartbeat. The energy was electric, unstoppable. By late afternoon, the protests swelled into thousands. News vans crowded the perimeter. Helicopters thudded overhead. The entire city was watching. Inside the mall, Coleman's executives scrambled, their press director's voice shaky as she tried to issue a bland statement about unfortunate misunderstandings. The words only fanned the flames. Rachel joined Angela at the edge of the crowd, her suit jacket crumpled, hair loose from the wind. "You see this?" she shouted over the chants. "They can't bury it now. The people won't let them." Angela's throat tightened. Just days ago, she had felt utterly alone, drowning in threats, lies, and betrayal. Now, strangers stood shoulder to shoulder, demanding justice in her name. An elderly woman pressed through the crowd, gripping Angela's hand. "My grandson was one of them," she whispered. "Falsely arrested, made to plead guilty. Now they'll have to listen." Angela squeezed her hand gently. "They will." For the first time in weeks, she truly believed it. As the sun set, the chants grew louder, angrier, but also more unified. Alyssa climbed onto a concrete barrier, raising her phone. "They thought they could silence one woman, but look at us. They can't silence thousands." The crowd roared back. "No justice, no peace, no justice, no peace." Angela pulled her cap lower, hiding tears that threatened to spill. This wasn't just about her anymore. This was bigger. This was everyone who had been profiled, arrested, extorted, silenced. Sophia appeared at her side, her cast awkward but her grin fierce. "This is it. Angela." The sparks caught fire. Angela stared at the mall's gleaming facade, the very place where humiliation had nearly broken her. Now it was surrounded, exposed, trembling under the weight of truth. "They wanted me quiet," Angela murmured. Instead, they woke a storm. The marble halls of City Hall had never felt so alive. Camera crews jostled for position, microphones extended like bayonets, and the air buzzed with anticipation. It was the Thursday night council meeting, normally a tedious affair of zoning disputes and budget allocations. Tonight, it was the stage for a war. Angela Moore stood at the chamber doors, her suit pressed sharp, her captain's badge pinned firmly inside her blazer. The weight of 20 years of service hung on her shoulders, but so did something new: hope. Behind her, Rachel Brooks adjusted a stack of files, while Sophia Torres, arm still in a sling, clutched her laptop like a weapon. Alyssa James stood close, nervous but resolute, her phone ready to capture every second. Inside, the council chamber overflowed, every seat filled, citizens lining the walls, spilling into the hallway. Protesters who had chanted outside Greenwood Mall just days ago now filled the gallery, holding up hand-lettered signs even here, "Justice for Moore. Stop the cycle." No more silence. Angela's eyes scanned the front of the chamber. There he was, Officer Eric Dalton. He lounged arrogantly in a chair near the council platform, whispering to Richard Coleman, CEO of the mall's parent corporation. Their laughter cut through the low hum of the crowd like nails on glass. The mayor sat at the center, flanked by nervous council members. Sweat darkened the collar of his suit. He knew what was coming, though he didn't know how much. Not yet. Angela waited in line behind ordinary citizens speaking at the podium. Concerned parents, small business owners, activists. Each person was allowed 3 minutes. She checked her watch. Right on schedule. Sophia gave her a small nod from the back, then hit upload. Across the chamber, phones buzzed, screens lit up. The full, unedited video of Dalton whispering to the boutique manager before Angela's arrest went live. Gasps rippled through the crowd like a wave. Dalton stiffened in his seat, his smirk faltering. "Next speaker," the mayor announced. Angela stepped forward. The chamber quieted instantly, recognition spreading like fire. Murmurs. "That's her. That's Captain Moore." Cameras swung toward her, red recording lights blinking. Angela gripped the podium, her voice clear and strong. "My name is Captain Angela Moore. 2 weeks ago, I was falsely arrested while shopping at Greenwood Mall. But this isn't just about me. This is about a criminal enterprise hiding in plain sight, operating with the protection of this very council." Gasps. Shouts. The mayor slammed his gavel, but the noise drowned him out. Angela spread documents across the podium, her hands steady. "These are internal communications between Coleman Holdings and Officer Dalton. They show arrest quotas targeting black citizens. They show payments funneled into a private probation company owned by Coleman Holdings. Every false arrest fed their profits." She held up the burner phone in an evidence bag. "This device contains messages between Dalton and executives at Coleman Holdings. They bragged about quotas. They planned my arrest. And they used our justice system to line their pockets." The crowd roared. Council members shifted uneasily. Richard Coleman's face drained of color. Dalton shot to his feet, his voice cracking. "Lies. All lies. She's trying to destroy everything we built." He caught himself too late. "Everything you built?" State Attorney Patricia Walsh rose from her seat in the gallery, striding forward with a team of investigators. "And what exactly have you built, Officer Dalton?" Dalton's face twisted. "You can't do this. I'm one of you. 20 years on the force." But the investigators moved with calm efficiency. Officer Rodriguez, once his ally, now stood before him with handcuffs. "Turn around. Dalton." "Don't make this worse." Dalton's bravado cracked. He looked around desperately for allies, at Coleman, at the mayor, at Turner lurking in the back. But no one moved. The crowd erupted into chants. "Justice! Justice!" As Rodriguez cuffed Dalton, Coleman bolted for the side exit, only to be intercepted by state investigators. His protests about urgent business were cut off with a curt, "Yes, with us." The chamber descended into chaos. Flashbulbs turned the room into stuttering light and shadow. Reporters shouted questions. Activists cried tears of vindication. Citizens cheered. The mayor pounded his gavel helplessly, sweat streaming. Patricia Walsh turned toward the podium, her voice firm. "Captain Moore, I'll need all of that evidence. Tonight." Angela handed over the folder and phone with deliberate calm. "Everything is here. The money trail goes back years. Payments to probation contractors, kickbacks to judges, a system built to exploit the vulnerable." Walsh's jaw tightened. "Then tonight, we start dismantling it." Dalton was dragged out, shouting curses. Coleman followed, red-faced and sweating, his expensive suit crumpled by the hands of investigators. Council members whispered frantically, some slipping out through side doors, others pale with dread. Angela stood tall at the podium, surrounded by the roar of the crowd. The truth, long buried, was finally erupting into the light. Hours later, the heavy doors of City Hall opened. Angela stepped into the warm night, greeted by a sea of protesters. Cheers erupted, echoing across the plaza. "Captain Moore! Captain Moore!" She paused at the top of the steps, overwhelmed. Children waved homemade signs. Teenagers live-streamed her every move. Elderly couples clasped hands, tears on their cheeks. Beside her, Alyssa James raised her phone. "Live once again." She stood up when they tried to silence her. "Now we stand with her." The chant swelled. "Justice for Moore! Justice for Moore!" Angela's throat tightened. For so long she had fought alone, drowning in lies, betrayal, and threats. Now the crowd's voices lifted her, carrying the weight she had borne. She raised her voice, strong and steady. "This fight was never just about me. It was about every person who's been profiled, silenced, extorted. Tonight, we showed them that no one is above the truth. And together we will keep fighting until justice is real for all of us." The crowd roared. Fireworks burst overhead. Illegal, spontaneous, brilliant. The night sky lit with color as chants of justice rolled like thunder. 3 days later, Greenwood Mall stood like a hollow monument. Yellow tape sealed shuttered storefronts. Security guards had been fired, their radios replaced by silence. Investigators combed offices once thought untouchable. Angela walked slowly through the quiet corridors, her badge gleaming proudly on her chest again. She had come full circle, back to the place where humiliation had nearly broken her, now transformed into a crime scene under federal review. Shoppers stopped her, one by one. A mother pushing a stroller whispered, "Thank you. My brother was one of them. You gave him hope." Teenagers asked for photos, giggling nervously. "You're like a superhero now," one girl whispered. Angela smiled softly. "I'm no superhero. I just refuse to stay silent." Her niece Jasmine ran up from the jewelry boutique, silver butterfly necklace glittering around her neck. "Auntie D, look, they gave me this. They said it's to honor you." Angela hugged her tight, heart swelling. "You're the reason I kept fighting." That night, as the sun dipped behind the city skyline, Angela stood on her porch, Rachel and Sophia beside her. Alyssa perched on the steps. They were bruised, tired, forever changed, but victorious. Rachel lifted a glass of wine. "To the truth." Sophia raised her water bottle. "To the people who wouldn't let it die." Angela lifted her badge, gleaming in the twilight. "To justice." They clinked together, a quiet toast echoing louder than any chant. For once, Angela allowed herself to exhale. The battle wasn't over. Corruption never vanished in a night. But tonight, they had won. And tomorrow, the fight would continue. If this story moved you, don't let it stop here. Share it with your friends, hit that like button, and subscribe so you never miss the next one. Together, we keep shining light where they want darkness. Justice doesn't wait, and neither should we.